I'm heading up the business security in Telenor. So in earlier roles, I also been heading up, technology strategy and architecture, working on private networks. So that's what I'm going through today on our achievements and some of the cases. But before we do that, I will also have a quick reflection on the markets and how that is moving or not moving. And also how we as Telenor are approaching private networks. So that's what I'm going to start with. And so then I will also go into a couple of customer cases just to exemplify what we have delivered and emphasizing a bit on the customers, what they are looking for and how they get the value from private network into that. So that's the setup. But before we do that, just one sentence about Telenor. Telenor is an operator. We are engaged in mobile operations and fixed operations in 8 different countries with more than 215 million customers, mainly in Northern Europe and also in Asia. So that's what we are. So if we go to the next page on this one, I will just flash a couple of market forecasts, which are not from Telenor, but from various sources. So if you manage to get the slides to shift, yeah, here we are. And again, these are not from Telenor, and you can just Google this. You will see quite optimistic numbers, and as a rough estimate across all these forecasts, we see annual growth in the range of 40-45% up to 55%, and even higher in some cases on annual basis, which I would say is quite optimistic all over. And that's, of course, good for an operator, but it's not only the operator who will take positions here. There will be a number of other players as well which approach this. What you also will see is that there are expectations across the whole globe, basically. So across many countries and across many industries that this market will move forward. And again, you say that the growth expectations on annual basis is roughly between 45% to 55%, which is, again, significant. Some of the key industries you will recognize are transportation or logistics, health. You typically have emergency services, defense, for example. You have mining, forecasting, offshore installations, oil and gas, and so forth. So across all of these industries, there are expectations that this market will be good to be in going forward. And then we could, of course, ask the same questions. Didn't we see the same numbers 4 or 5 years ago? And probably there was a great deal of optimism at that time as well. I just remember that we made some forecast internally, and they looked quite good. And of course, the COVID hit, and there was some implications of that. But we also realized that actually the need from the customer point of view on the come to private network is typically related to a transition to digitalization. So we will come back to that through the couple of customer examples in the rest of the session. Before we go, I will just show a couple of slides on how Telenor is approaching private networks, and we might be a bit different than some of the other players here. So if you go to the next page, you will see over definition of a private network, which is my own network perception from the customer. So that means that there are several ways to implement a private network as we see it. It could both be as a part of a public network, meaning leveraging almost like a slice, or it could be a pre-slice. At least you're using the public network to deliver my network experience for an enterprise. And then we have some cases which are also asking for a dedicated on-premises, even autonomous private network in a building, in a mine, in a tunnel, in a campus, whatever. So in order to really fully deliver on the customer expectations here, we need to support both. So we are both leveraging the public network and supporting a private network experience based on that, and delivering on-premises, isolated, dedicated installations on the campus or in the building and so forth. So that's our definition. Now, it's important to keep this in mind as we go through the examples as well, because you will see that many of the customer cases over time are asking for a combination of this. And that's also important then, of course, that we as an operator come from that perspective. So we don't, place ourselves into a corner, and that's the only way we can deliver a private network. Otherwise, we are not relevant. But actually, in this opposite. So we come from what is the customer needs, and then we build it according to support their current needs and also their future expected needs. So we see many things customer needs which are triggering this. As I said, overall, is a digitalization, meaning connecting number of devices. There are some security and privacy concerns. They want to keep their information on the campus or in the building, for example. And they also want the flexibility. They are reconfiguring some robots, for example. They want a mobile network to do that, not to do cabling and so forth. So there are a number of clear needs from the customers. And if you go to the next page, you will see even more details on this, which are basically, we can summarize this as triggered by what they call industrialization 4.0 or industry 4.0. So the fourth industry revolution, if you want to talk about that. And then you see on the right-hand side of this slide a number of technologies or components which needs to be in place over time in order to meet the customer needs. And you see also the drivers there on the listed, just a couple of examples maybe when it comes to efficiency, for example. We have delivered a private network to a yard, and that was supporting robots moving around to record to detect where the tools are and put that into a database, which essentially saved roughly half an hour for all of the employees on the yard, meaning it translated into 10 to 15 million euros annually in efficiency or waste or avoiding waste of work time in order to look for tools. So you can see directly translation of embracing this digitalization and what this really means for example, efficiency and quality, but also safety when it comes to, and a lot of the safety cases, and we'll come back to some of them later, involves video analytics, meaning continuous video feeds which are analyzed and then an alarm generated in case there are some dangerous situations appearing or in any other way. And then, of course, security, as I said, both protecting against intrusion from outsider and to keep information on site. There's a lot about compliance reporting to the governments, for example, on how we are doing. And when you have digitalized your processes, that process tends to be much more efficient and also much more trustworthy because it's fully transparent to the ones receiving those compliance reports. And not to forget the couple of the last items there on innovation, for example. As soon as you have done this, you also lower the threshold for experimenting with new ways of working, engaging with new partners, trying out, testing out, and see how that goes. For example, so innovation is also quite an interesting driver in many of these cases. But this, of course, the main drivers and the weights across these drivers varies a lot across the industries and over time. And you need to sit down with individual customers to really figure out what are the first cases and what are they looking for in terms of, is it efficiency, is it the safety, and so forth. So to meet this, you see some, as I said, some technologies on the right-hand side, and on the next page, we are just summarizing some of the key areas where we as an operator also need to embrace in order to be relevant for the customer over times. And then these are, as you see, one example here, private networks. It's also edge cloud, which are typically distributed clouds and edge computing. Security, I heard that was mentioned in the panel. So that is in clear demand, and it's quite an interesting market for many players to address security as part of the digitalization. And we see that there are regulations coming also from EU on this. And of course, the general threat situation in the global level also are driving the need for improving security. Then analytics there are a lot of asks for analytics, either video analytics, but also more data analytics in general. Open networks, of course, invites for openness and coming with components from different sources. running that, for example, in a building on an edge cloud, doing building management, for example, on the same cloud platform as a network. And lastly is the solution and integration, which is also need to be part of the puzzle in order to meet all the customer demands over time. So that was a quick introduction to Telenor and the overview on how we are approaching this. Then I will run through a number of, I think we have maybe 3-4 customer cases coming next. So I will just start with, on the next page, you will see a port case, which is in the Southeast Asia. So it's one of the larger ports there. So it's almost 6 kilometers long, half a kilometer wide, and they are moving more than 10 million containers on an annual basis. So we were sitting down with the port authorities and the one operating the ports on what they if they want to what are the plans when it comes to digitalization, and they say that one of the first cases they would like to start with is actually to that the crane operators could sit in the office and operate the different cranes, so they don't have to walk from the office to the cranes, which is actually one of the most dangerous things a crane operator can do. We were looking into that, that requires a number of video cameras on each of the cranes. It requires an edge computing. It required 5G to support all the capacity and also the latency in order to do this computing and to analyze all the video feeds in truly in real time. So that's just one of the things, and a number of components, as you can see on the slide on the right-hand side there as well, which need to be put together. As I said, there are video feeds, so the video analytics needs to be there. There needs to be a combination of different cloud computing. There needs to be, of course, 5G, 4G even. It could be supporting some of the cases and so forth. And that definitely also security, because this is a business critical task for the port authorities. So you can see up in the right hand side corner on the slide, you see a number of use cases there. So we started actually discussing automating and remote controlling of the on-offloading of ships, but it turns out that even a simpler use case for the port authorities was simply the insurance claims. So to document whether a container was damaged or not when it was offloaded from the ship or when it was unloaded to the ship. So that was helping a lot in the insurance claims and the insurance processing. So that's kind of that actually is savings from the port operator just by the insurance claims was covering all the expenses to make this take the first steps here. Then they have further use cases coming, as I said, on offloading and also safety of the people and the equipment in the port area. And next example on the next page, you will see logistics or a warehouse case. This is in Norway for the ones who can read the small prints, where we have been working with the one operating this warehouse, which is then no light 24/7 operations, fully automated. So in that warehouse are automated forklift trucks, offloading, unloading trailers or trucks which are coming, and then of course placing that into different places in the warehouse, and then fetching those, and then allowing the trucks to leave according to their schedule. So that's a simple use case for a warehouse, and as I say, the first use case is simply on and offloading of trucks. However, they wanted to extend that, of course, when we have done that, and that also required 5G for capacity and latency, and definitely also for latency, it needs to be stable as the first use case as well. So we need to have a very, very stable latency in the when you are serving and operating a warehouse in real time like this. But they also wanted to enhance it, so they want to timing the trucks arriving the warehouse according to the proper timing and everything. So they need to go into a logistic optimization. And as the next steps, which is probably hidden behind on the lower right, they also want to have run an autonomous ship. So it's electrified ship, which is then crossing the fjord, and they want to automate, the fully on and offloading of that one as well, which is very, very similar to the port case on the previous page. And you will see throughout all these customer cases that these components are reused. And that's one of the things you have to do, as we see it, when you are addressing private networks. In this case, you have to reuse the components across all the customer, or most of the customer cases. So on the next page, you find another use case, which is from the military or the defense and peacekeeping. They have a requirement of fully decoupled or option for decoupled and autonomous private networks. So they have installed a private network and edge cloud into a vehicle. And that could be an armed vehicle, or it could be a private car or whatever. And then they want to use that as a communication hub, for example, in the field. And again, in order to support this, you need 5G, 4G. Of course, you need cloud components. You need to have analytics. Security, again, is fundamental for them when they want to do this, because this is truly mission critical for the defense. They also have their own applications, so they want to have those running on the same cloud as the communication control. And we also use this on wheels, if you want, private networks. For other cases, we had I think we had that on YouTube video, for example, working with search and rescue, meaning the police, for example, to look for people which are out in the or lost out in the forest, for example, with the body-mounted cameras and also drones, and support that to set up the private network in the vicinity of that incident, or when that's needed. And we also have just a recent research activity completed on this with a forest case, meaning how to cut the trees, and also the processing there, and also remotely helping on assistant, for example, on vehicles, the heavy machinery, if you need to do a repair or whatever. So the same components which then you see on picture here are then reused for across a number of other customer cases, whether that's the emergency service or is the forest management, for example. So that case. So another, if you go to the next page, and sorry, I'm rushing. I think we're a bit behind already, or at least I'm behind already. You see, just a reminder that it's not one need fitting all customers within the industry. And that's just one simple example. You find a number of engagement we have on the healthcare and the health industry. And you see a smart hospital, for example, which is a new build hospital. And they were coming from that. They wanted everything to be on premises, so a fully autonomous private network and edge cloud on the campus on that. And that should be meaning completely decoupled from the rest of the world. Need to support everything that they want to do on the, like, is it supporting surgery? Is it the deciding on the menu on the canteen? Is it on the workforce planning, and so on? So all these kind of applications were expected to run on the hospital campus, meaning, again, completely decoupled from the rest of the world. And then we can go through later maybe on some of the other health cases when we have better time. But these are just illustrating that there are many, many different use cases also within the same industry and the types of customers. So just to keep that in mind, that means that it's so important to sit down with the customers and figure out, where are you on the digitalization, and what are the first steps you want to solve? What are the first needs you need to cover, and how can we help from either private network, edge cloud, security, and those kind of elements to move forward and help you solve that problems. And the same on the next page is just also a reminder that it's a fish farming case. It's probably a case, I guess, Annie, we can talk for this for hours. But it's also a case just to illustrate that we are typically talking about fish farming out there, which in offshoring there's a platform, and there are some fish nets and so on. There are robots, and there's automatic feeding of fish and so forth. But they also have needs on their production sites. They also have needs for logistics, for example, on transportation to the markets and everything. So they have the same, a very broad need as well. And these are the things of the dialogues you need to have with the customer in overview to again see where are you on the digitalization, and what are the first couple of use cases to start with. And then, of course, you need to have the flexibility to be a partner also in the later steps. So this was just a fish farming case as a reminder of that you need all these components to be relevant. We just made also one page on the next one just to reflect a bit on what are the challenges, some of the issues there. And clearly, hopefully you recognized that through these cases, it's not up to one company to deliver all these components. So there needs to be a partner approach. You need to sit down and work with a number of partners. And they need to be all aligned, to deliver according to the need of the use case. And that means that when you're discussing with different partners, there will be different levels of technical support. Of course, there will be different business models. There needs to be alignment on what are the business ambitions and so forth. And also, there's quite a strong trend toward as-a-service delivery models, and that, of course, needs to be aligned with what the customers want. Some of them want to pay upfront, some of them want more like an OPEX heavy, some of them wants just an experiment, for some period, and then maybe turn it into a commercial setup later. And secondly, is that many of these, in order to work in this way, what we have been through on the customer cases and the way we are approaching private network, it needs to be automated and it needs to be also allowing and supporting autonomous operations. And this is so critical because many of these private networks go directly into the way these enterprises are running the business. So we are part of their business critical processes. So it cannot fail. It needs to be resilient, and we also need to be aware, both on the technical side, but also on the operation side, that this is the way we are engaging then with the customers. And they also they're looking for what they call a multi-cloud strategy. So they have preferences for different cloud environments. They have their own applications development, or they have partners doing that. So in order to remain relevant, we also need to have that as part of the multi-partner setup. Last, on the next page, just a summary, and sorry for rushing through all these cases. It's just in short. So we see that private networks, as I said, walk through some of the forecasts. There are great expectations. It, of course, remains to be seen on the global level and across the different customer cases. But we sit down with the customers and enterprises and come into a constructive dialogues on how to solve their needs. And clearly, they are very easy to recognize the value for the enterprises if they do it the right way. And they are also reaching out for partners. And we see at operator, of course, we should be professional on both designing, planning, and operating, and further developing private networks. So that should be our bread and butter. So we should be an obvious partner, I think, in many of cases. And we see that they're coming to us because we're also running, critical infrastructure in many of the countries. So we are certified in quotes even by the government to be able to run and support them in the business critical processes. And then we see that, as I said several times, we simply need to, we see similar cases across different industry, and that's driving a reuse of components to a large extent. So you need to define these different basic building blocks and then build on those across the different customer cases. And we also see partners are fully supporting that way and that way of approach it. So that, Andy, was very quick from my side. I'm not sure if you have any times for questions or you need to rush on.
I'm really interested in how different the use cases are, and yet the trick of this is a combination, it seems to me, of the ecosystem and reusing components. So I'm also fascinated by the use cases and all the things you'd never thought of unless you work in that industry, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. I think that's also, I believe it's, of course, we approached this maybe 5-6 years, or maybe even 8 years ago, as should we go for industry-specific solutions and you rather, streamline that, or should we rather be connectivity and then someone else comes to ask us about connectivity or how it fits into that? I think we realized that a couple of things. We need to be engaged in creating the market. We need to demonstrate that this can be done. And then when we look into the different cases, we see that they are very, very similar, like video analytics. And you kind of you use the video analytics to recognize a fish, for example, in a fish farm. But you also do the similar things, for recognizing people not wearing hard hats in a dangerous areas in the port.
Yeah.
And if you sit down with the right partners, they will spend 3 weeks to turn a fish farming video analytics into someone recognizing someone working on the port area. So that's the kind of the speed of with the right partners, and then you can reuse, of course, multiple things across a number of cases in that way.
It feels like finally we've come a long way and learned a lot, and now I've got the happy image of a fish in a hard hat. But anyway. Terje, as always, thank you very much indeed. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.